If you've been looking to move to Vancouver, you've undoubtedly heard about the cost of living here. People almost religiously discuss how expensive everything is in Vancouver, from housing to gas. Now, sadly, this has turned away a lot of people from this great city, even though the reality is more complicated than that. Vancouver's reputation for high prices, at least partly unfair because of how much it depends on what you're looking for in terms of housing and lifestyle. Sadly, this has an effect of turning people away from this great city. Even though the reality is a little bit more complicated than that, Vancouver's reputation for high prices is at least partly unfair because much of it depends on what you're looking for in terms of housing and lifestyle. To better understand the cost of living in Vancouver, let's take a look at some key metrics and see how they stack up against similar world-class cities, specifically Toronto, Seattle, and San Francisco. In particular, we'll be looking at 10 metrics: rental prices, housing prices, grocery costs, dining costs, utilities, gas prices, median income, property taxes, sales taxes, and childcare costs. All right, let's talk about rental prices. So despite Vancouver's reputation for elevated housing prices, Vancouver rental prices are more affordable than some comparable markets. The average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Vancouver is $2,200 per month. For a two-bedroom apartment, that figure rises to $3,000 a month, and these are in Canadian figures. In the closest city by proximity, Seattle, a one-bedroom runs for $1,900 US, whereas a two-bedroom goes for about $2,500 US. In Toronto, those numbers are $2,300 and $2,850 respectively. And of course, when compared with San Francisco, Vancouver looks pretty cheap. Rents are $3,690 US for a one-bedroom apartment and over $4,500 US for a two-bedroom apartment. So while Vancouver is pricier than cheaper cities, it is certainly not the most expensive. Rent here is slightly less costly than it is in Toronto. When accounting for currency conversion, Vancouverites pay about the same as Seattleites. Vancouver looks like an absolute bargain to anyone in the Bay Area. To summarize, when it comes to rents, we have high rents, but many, if not all, major metro areas have higher rents. Our prices are not too bad in the big picture. Housing prices. So there's no doubt that Vancouver has elevated housing prices. An infograph using late 2018 data showed that Vancouver had the second highest home price in North America. San Francisco was the highest, Vancouver second, Seattle 8th, and Toronto took the 11th spot. However, this infograph is somewhat misleading. Vancouver has a significant price disparity between condos and houses. There's a relatively consistent supply of condominiums which keep prices slightly in check. Now, according to the website Zillow, a Vancouver condo sells for $811,000, whereas a Toronto one sells for $655,000. More expensive, yes, but the average detached home in Toronto is $1.3 million, where in Vancouver it clocks in at $2.5 million. Vancouver is more expensive, but if you're in the market for a condo, it's not that much pricier than Toronto. Additionally, if you're willing to commute, the prices drop substantially in the suburbs like Maple Ridge, Delta, Chilliwack even, and it's still more affordable than a place like San Francisco. All right, let's talk about grocery costs. Groceries are a mixed bag for Vancouverites. Residents of the city pay more for some groceries and less for others. For example, when compared to Numbeo, which is an awesome website, when compared with Toronto, Vancouverites save on milk and cheese but spend more on bread and rice. According to the same site, people living in Vancouver pay a similar grocery cost to those living in Seattle, except that while a Vancouver person might pay like 83 cents for banana, someone in Seattle will pay the same price, 83 cents, but in US. So it can sometimes be cheaper to buy groceries in Vancouver as compared with US cities, after converting currency, of course. Perhaps unsurprisingly, Vancouver is pretty much always on par or less expensive than San Francisco. All right, my favorite part is dining, the dining costs. So dining out in Vancouver is not incredibly expensive when compared with other cities. According to Numbeo, for an expensive restaurant, a person here can expect to pay about $16. For a mid-range place, for two people, that number rises to about $80. In Toronto, those numbers are $20 and $80 respectively. So while Toronto is a little bit more expensive, Vancouver's pretty much on par. For Seattle, Vancouverites pay about what Seattleites pay, just in Canadian dollars instead of US dollars. So a person in Seattle will pay $15 US, but a person in Vancouver will pay $16 Canadian. Continuing with this trend, San Franciscans pay more in US dollars than Vancouverites pay in Canadian. All right, let's talk about utilities. So when it comes to utility costs, Vancouver's residents enjoy a break when compared with other large metro areas. Numbeo ranks utilities based off how much a 915 square foot apartment should expect to pay. They estimate Vancouver residents would pay $90 per month versus Torontonians who would be looking at $138 a month. Now, both of these figures are less than San Franciscans, who pay $140, and Seattleites pay $162 US per month. Vancouver also enjoys relatively inexpensive electricity. A report by the Business Council of BC showed that Vancouverites' electricity costs were the lowest of all the 4 metro areas at 11.42 cents a kilowatt on average. Toronto clocked in at 13.24 cents, Seattle is at 15 cents, and San Francisco electricity cost, get this, it's 28 cents on average. Okay, so gas prices. Another thing that people love to discuss is the cost of gas here in British Columbia. At approximately $1.50 per liter, Vancouverites have the highest price of gas in Canada. However, at $1.15 per liter, Toronto is not too far behind. At approximately $3 per gallon, which is $1 Canadian per liter in Seattle, Washingtonians have the least high price overall. Now, at roughly $4 per gallon, people in San Francisco have it worse, actually, stateside. While there's no doubt that gas prices are higher in Vancouver than in other places, they're not insanely high. If you're driving to and from work every day, yeah, gas prices out here won't break your bank too much more than living in other world-class cities like Toronto or San Francisco. All right, median income. Unfortunately, when it comes to median incomes, this is one area where Vancouver has some catching up to do. So according to Stats Canada, the median income for the city was $72,000 back in 2015, the latest year available. In Toronto, the average was $78,000. For Seattle, the average income is $93,000 US, and for San Francisco, that number unsurprisingly rises to $112,000 a year salary. Of course, our southern friends need to deduct extra expenses like health insurance from those salaries. Still, there's no doubt that Vancouver and other Canadian cities have some work to do to catch up to wages in other large metro areas. Sounds like a helijet back there. All right, property taxes. Vancouverites pay $2.56 per thousand in value for property taxes. On the other hand, Toronto pays $4.50 per thousand of property value. The U.S. has very high property taxes by comparison, as both San Fran and Seattle frequently pay $10 to $20 or more per thousand of property value. All right, let's talk about the sales tax. So despite its reputation for being expensive, Vancouver has a decent tax rate. Sales tax in BC is at 12%, and there are many classes of products that are exempt from the PST, like restaurant meals. Torontonians pay 13% HST, and Seattleites pay 10%, San Fran pay 8.5%, the lowest of all the cities. All right, finally, childcare costs. Despite Vancouver having very high childcare costs relative to other cities in Canada, it still has the cheapest of the 3 other cities to which we're making the comparison. So in Vancouver, childcare costs $1,400 a month per infant, which is less than Toronto. There, the average monthly cost is $1,685. Both of these numbers are less expensive than both Seattle and San Fran, where people pay $1,680 US and $1,955 US. While Vancouver daycare is pricey when compared to Winnipeg, for example, it's not as pricey as other large metro areas. There is zero question that Vancouver is not the cheapest place to live in Canada. However, when compared with the 3 other world-class cities, it's not the most expensive and it's not the most affordable either. On average, Vancouver tends to be about the same or have a little slight lower cost of living than Toronto. And when compared with Seattle, Vancouver is often less expensive when factoring the currency conversion. However, Vancouver's salaries don't match Seattle's. Finally, Vancouver is almost always significantly less costly than San Fran, which is not surprising considering that San Fran is consistently rated as one of the most expensive cities to live in the world. One of the fantastic things about British Columbia is that there are ways to make it very affordable. For example, picking a condo will give you a reasonably priced place to live with lower property taxes. You'll then be able to take advantage of the lower electricity costs, the lower grocery costs to save for your dream home. Again, which if you're willing to look at a suburb of Vancouver like Maple Ridge or Coquitlam, Chilliwack, it's not as pricey. There you have it, folks. If you're looking to move to Vancouver and are wondering what the cost of living, speak with your real estate agent today, or you can give me a call. There's a good chance that there's a way to move to this beautiful city without breaking the bank. We do have access to a lot of good deals, and we can definitely represent an awesome price for you. So again, don't hesitate to reach out to me. My name is Solomon, and I'm a local real estate agent here in Vancouver. You can reach us at the number below, or you can email us and visit our website, searchbcrealestate.com. And don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, leave your comments, and let us know what you think. Thanks again for watching.